Being crazy defined by society is just being what's outside of the normal in their eyes. And in that case, you want to be a bit crazy. As a matter of fact, you have to if you want to succeed, if you want to beat your competition, if you want to separate yourself from the pack. And going through the world, going through society, the education system, etc., there's a lot of things in the world, in life, that's going to make you want to cope, that's going to make you want to settle. And they give you all these types of coping mechanisms to escape. But as a guy especially, right, and I genuinely believe this, there's a fire inside each and every single one of us that makes us want to create, that makes us want to build, that makes us want to have impact in some way, shape, or form. You gotta be so crazy that you're a bit delusional, and you gotta set a stupidly delusional goal, something that you're passionate about, and strive to that every single day. Like, we've all heard the quote, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land on the stars, something like that. And it's true, I would much rather be overconfident than too insecure, because if you're too insecure, you won't do anything. You're just gonna keep yourself in this little box that society, the world, your parents, your friends, your family, whatever it is, the box that you put yourself in, and you're never gonna get out of it if you're too insecure. And if you're overconfident, yeah, you're gonna be a bit overzealous. You're gonna shoot too high and you're gonna miss sometimes. But at least you're gonna shoot, and that's the key. It's like, man, we spend so much of our lives putting ourselves in these boxes. Like, you know how many times I've heard, who says that, who does that, who acts like that, you have to be realistic, etc, etc, etc. This type of narrative with the underlying tone of you're too confident. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes to a point of delusion. But sometimes being delusional is the key, is what's gonna make you rise to your full potential. Like, again, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land on the stars. Before I spar, I'll always say to myself in my head, I'm the best fighter in the world, right? And even though that's delusional, in that moment, I actually believe it. And every time I've done this, I've always sparred my best. The times where I've gotten lit up or beat up the most is when I gave too much respect to my opponent and humbled myself. I can say this for a fact, every single time in my life where I've been overconfident, it's always worked out better than when I was too insecure. And again, when people tell you to be realistic, it's like, realistic to who? Because I'm not trying to be like most people. Most people are depressed, coping, practicing escapism, living for the weekend, dreading the weekdays, just coasting through life, letting time bleed, but things aren't bad enough to where they're forced to make a change, but it's not good enough to make them happy, so they're just coasting in this like existential crisis and depression and antidepressants and whatever else. And to be honest, when most people realize they're going through some sort of existential midlife crisis, it's really them realizing that they've been putting themselves in a box their entire life and not knowing how to get out of that box. And I know that because it's the same thing each and every time. It's a dissatisfaction for what they're doing in life and not going after what they really want. You gotta be a bit crazy to break out of this. No person that's ever done anything great wasn't at least a little bit crazy. You take guys like Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Vincent Van Gogh, Michael Phelps, Nikola Tesla, Picasso, it doesn't matter. Anyone who's done anything great was at least a little bit crazy in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Van Gogh literally cut off his ear. Tesla literally stayed a virgin his entire life, allegedly. But those guys were like the most extreme examples of being crazy, but that's why they were masters of what they did. Obviously, I'm not saying be crazy in the sense of almost crashing out, but you gotta be crazy in the eyes of most people around you in terms of what you wanna do in life. Set a stupidly delusional goal. Like, just the right amount of crazy is what's gonna drive you and separate you from most people and allow you to live the life that you secretly wanna live. You gotta take that craziness and channel it into focused obsession. Remember, the term crazy defined by most people is what's outside of normal to them, in their eyes, in the eyes of the masses. And truth to be told, it's gonna be a lonely road up ahead. If you wanna go that route, if you wanna do something different, if you wanna separate yourself from most people. Because slowly but surely, you start to become unrelatable to a lot of people. Remember, self-belief makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to look at their own weaknesses. And I actually think that most guys, if we're being honest, at some point in your life, it doesn't matter if it's the beginning, the middle, or the end, at some point in your life, you're going to have a period of your life where you deal with things completely on your own. Whether it's some sort of traumatic event, some tragedy, an unexpected event that came into your life that you didn't expect, something's going to happen in your life that forces you to deal with the problem completely by yourself. It doesn't matter what it is. And this is something that we all have to go through at some point. That's why it's so important to learn to be okay with being alone, because that's what's going to allow you to deal with that issue when that time comes. And that moment's going to change you, it's going to drive you, and sometimes it makes or breaks you. They say that the path to success to the top is a lonely road. I'm nowhere near that, but I'm starting to kind of understand what it means. Because the only way you're going to succeed in doing something different, going after what you want, is by prioritizing yourself first. And a lot of sacrifices come along that path. You become unrelatable, people look at you different, you got less time for certain things. Almost every successful person has said the exact same thing. It's a little bit sad, but it's also a natural progression, and how you deal with that is going to make all the difference in the world. Remember, when it comes to achieving something that you want for yourself, it's always going to be better to be overconfident than to be too insecure, 100% of the time. It's like this. Let's say if I had to fight prime Mike Tyson, I'm going to have to believe that I'm going to knock him out. As impossible as that is, even if the result is inevitable, even if there's almost 100% chance of him taking my head clean off my shoulders, me believing that I'm going to beat him, me believing that I'm going to knock him out, that's going to give me a slightly better chance than if I just believed that I was going to get destroyed. Again, even if the result is inevitable, it will increase my chance, and that's essentially my point. You got to be a little bit crazy in that regard. You got to believe that you can be the best in whatever you do. You need that self-belief, you need that self-confidence, and it doesn't matter how other people are going to look at you for it, because they're not going to be the ones living your life, and you're not living their life. You got to focus on your own goals. So do whatever it takes to get there. Do whatever it takes to make the younger version of you proud, even if that means being a little crazy.